Yes. So we have Abhishek Yadav here. Abhishek is now working with the Ministry of External Affairs as consultant for diaspora-related activities, and he's also doing PhD from SIS JNU, and almost about to complete. He has written few units for this program also. This is, I think, one unit. Abhishek, you have written?
Sir, I have written almost 5 to 6 units for the.
No, this is also same unit you have written?
No, sir, no, sir.
Okay, okay. This is written by Diksha. So, but this is the area which Abhishek specializes because he is from political science. So today he'll be teaching about, you can share the PPT, the citizenship issue, because when you talk about diaspora, we have so many issues, relating to citizenship, giving them, they are in between. Sometimes they are transnational also. So citizenship issue is very important. We say that migrant can be diaspora, but not all countries they can be diaspora. There are citizenship issue. There are issue in some countries they give dual citizen. Okay, so Abhishek will go more detail in that particular issue, and this is very important because when you talk about, for example, getting some privilege in India to do some business, to get associated with various organizations. So OCI card we talk, this gives some privilege. And there are also issues where many countries, they don't like this. Many Indian diaspora, they don't like this. So there are contestation in many areas. So Abhishek will talk more about that. Over to you, Abhishek.
Sir, could you please make me host?
Yes.
I can share.
Yes.
So is it visible? Good morning and warm greetings to all the participants for this lecture. And thank you so much, sir, for inviting me here for a lecture on comparative perspectives on citizenship practices. So this is a part of post-graduation diploma in migration and diaspora. And as you all are aware that we all are going to discuss today Unit 15, which comes under the transnationalism, diaspora and citizenship category, under the block 2, which covers broadly transnationalism and politics of citizenship. So my name is Abhishek Yadav, and I am soon completing my PhD from JNU. So it's my pleasure to be with all of you. And I think now we will start our discussion relating to citizenship practices and comparative dimensions. First of all, we are going to see that what are our objectives from this lecture. First of all, we would try to understand what does it mean by diaspora and how does it fit into the conception of nation and state. Then we will try to understand how citizenship regime and external citizenship are interrelated with each other. Then we will try to study a few case studies about Mexico, Argentina, and a regional organization which is known as ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States. Then we will come to India's diaspora engagement and how it works, what are its modalities, do we have any diaspora policy in official terms, and how India has been engaging with its diaspora for many decades. Then we will also study about what are the various policies and programs which are which are being undertaken by the Indian government. Then we will also try to understand, because that is what we have been covering for this unit, which relates to challenges. That what are the exact challenges when we ask about diaspora citizenship. So let's start with the definitional aspect of diaspora. Since you might have covered a few lectures for diaspora now, so I think you must have a clear conception of diaspora. So as Stephen Vertovec has defined diaspora, that any population that is re-territorialized or transnational, like beyond nations, which has originated in a land other than the one where it currently resides, and whose social, economic, and political networks across the borders of the nation state. I think, Vijayaji, you need to mute yourself because your audio is recurring again and again. Okay, so this is the definition of. So we can understand through it that a population which has moved to other country, and now it has connection in terms of, like, it could be economic connection, it could be political connection, it could have social connections, and there are other elements also, because this is one part of definition which is usually covered upon. But since we are the students of migration studies, so we try to develop more definitions, more aspects, so we can add cultural dimensions also, or any other aspect which we think that is missing in it. So simply speaking, diaspora, by word literal meaning, it says that it's dispersion, it's to spread, it's like scattering of seeds. And there are a few classic examples like Jewish diaspora, Greek diaspora, Armenian diaspora, who had to move to other places, and they settled in the other country, and then they tried to attach themselves with their homeland. So that is what our clear conception is about diaspora. Now let's move forward towards 6 features of Indian diaspora. William Safran has given these 6 features which are very, very important when we talk about diaspora. Because since in this lecture we are going to understand that what are citizenship dimensions, like dual citizenship and every other aspect related to it. That's why we need to understand that what exactly are we implying when we are talking about diaspora. So the first essential element is about displacement of members from homeland to peripheral places. So for example, if a community or person is going from India, so India becomes homeland, and the country in which he has or she has moved, that becomes a peripheral place or host land. So this is a basic ingredient. So displacement has to take place. Then second aspect is about memory of homeland. So one becomes diaspora when he or she is nostalgic about the community. He has some memory dimension that it like I used to be there, and I had some memories. It could be good memories, it could be bad memories, but that memory element has to be there. Then sense of alienation in host country. So as we all are aware that even if we move from one district to another district, we feel that it's a different sort of mechanism, it's a different sort of environment, it's a different sort of culture. And all these things bring a little amount of alienation. Somehow you get integrated, somehow you get sense of mixed response. Sometimes you get very good people, sometimes you get people with whom you don't match don't get harmonized with them. So that sense of alienation is also something which is worth pondering upon when you reach to the another country. So this is something also one of the features of diaspora. Fourth element is about a belief that ancestral homeland is a true homeland, because when we see about Jewish diaspora, or we see about any other diaspora, they consider their home land as that it's a true homeland, and we have to be there connected with our roots. That's why all diaspora community try to engage themselves with their home country. So this is something I believe which is an essential ingredient of features of diaspora. Then there is also about collective dimension, which says about that you have to maintain the security of the homeland, because we have seen this sort of mechanism when diaspora community try to defend their homeland. And I will give you some examples later on while I will cover the other slides of the lecture. So this is something which you feel, because since you feel part that you belong to the homeland, even if you are outside the country, your relatives are there, your family might be there, and you feel a sense of belongingness to the country, and then you try to defend it in whatever possible ways you can. Even if if you go to some other state and you find that if someone is speaking bad about your state, then you will try to defend that, no, we are doing this also, we are doing that also. So in that sense, same thing also happens with diaspora. When diaspora goes there, so we could be of any like Andhra community, it could be Tamil diaspora, it could be Telugu diaspora, it could be diaspora from Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar. But when they go to other country, they will be Indian first, and they are going to defend the country. So this is a sense of collective feeling about our engagement with the homeland, and also concerning about the security of the country. And the sixth and last point is about consciousness. This consciousness is about that how we can continually engage with the homeland, and that solidarity, that you try to have a collective bonding, you make a community together, and you show that we are attached to our homeland, and we will try to do whatever possible for our country. So this was what was defined by William Safran for diaspora. So this makes a conception of diaspora quite clear, that what is diaspora and what are the essential ingredients of diaspora. Now we'll move towards other aspects or other conception of diaspora. So you might have heard about brain drain. So brain drain is about, as we know that if a person has taken education, if a person has used the resources of the country, and once a person has took the qualifications in the country, and then person goes for his or her employment in another country. Now, what happened in this case is that you have utilized the resources of a country, and then you have moved to another country. So it's like you have utilized each and every resources, you have harnessed each and every resources of the country, and then you move to another country and providing services to that country. So this phenomena is known as brain drain. So when this debate emerged, so the conception about diaspora was highly negative, that these are the people who utilize the resources and then they are not loyal to the country, they go abroad and they are investing their money in that country. So that negative feeling started to emerge about diaspora community. But gradually, we have seen that discourse changes. People start to understand that it's only a one perspective to see, and there are other dimensions also, that how in diaspora community also contribute to their homeland in their respective ways. And there are multiple ways when we see that they contribute through technology transfer, they contribute through by giving economic remittances. They also bring cultural remittances in that way, that they share the culture, they share the technology. There are so many things. Then we started to understand that, okay, so the brain drain is not, it's a very outdated concept in that sense. And now we have moved towards a new conception which talks about brain circulation. And brain circulation is about that, and as you can see the diagram also. So this diagram shows that we are in the age of globalization, right? And in the globalization, things are interconnected in many ways. So in brain circulation concept, we see that you are pursuing your career, but it's boundaryless because you have crossed the threshold of boundary and you are providing your services. So there is no movement barrier. And then you start on the lines of dual citizenship. You start to striving for, ask for dual citizenship. Although this is what we are going to discuss in the lecture, that what does it mean by dual citizenship, and whether it should be given, whether it should not be given. If it should be given, then what are the challenges in that? So this is something which we are going to cover. And then, so the purpose of brain circulation is that you are mobilizing the diasporic resources and their association to your homeland. So in brain circulation, even if a person has gone to the other country, he or she can contribute in numerous ways to the homeland. And that's what brain circulation is all about. It's a very positive aspect of understanding the migration. And it encourages the migration in many ways. Because you go to the other country and you get the resources which helps you in maximizing your potential, and then you utilize that potential for your homeland also. Then there is a conception of diasporic community, and when individuals go, they make a bond there, they make a diasporic community, and then they start a new sort of discourse where they ask that there is a need to redefine the citizenship. Don't consider that when we have left your country that we don't belong to your country. Then you start giving us a sense of belongingness in political terms, in legal terms also. And then they start striving for a dual citizenship. So this is something which has been taking place in many countries. So there are a few examples like community, scientific diaspora community, medical professional community, immigrant entrepreneur networks. So these are various sort of examples which show that how diasporic community start a discourse where they start working somewhere as a pressure group, sometimes as a informal group which try to increase their bonding, especially in legal terms, so that they can get citizenship. Now we will move towards nation state. So since we are going to understand the conception of citizenship, so before understanding citizenship and its association with diaspora, we need to also understand what does it mean by nation state, right? So in simple terms, we can say that nation state is a political entity characterized by a specific territory, population, government that shares a common culture, language, history, and identity. So to understand nation state, we have to also understand belongingness. And what does it mean by belongingness? That you are rooted in something. And here we are trying to imply to that particular place, which is a homeland. For example, Indian diaspora is there. So for them, it could be Indian nation state and that belonging to the Indian nation state. So it's about mutual recognition of its people as members of a particular nation with a shared sense of identity and belonging. So in example, we see Japan, France, and many other countries also. So as you can see the diagram where it shows that for being a nation state, there are multiple dimensions. It comprises of history, where you have common past, common experiences. It's about culture, that you have a shared way of life. It could be food, dress, behavior, ideals. Then you have sometimes you have a religion. It could be multiple religions. It could be single religions, but a religion shared by all or most of the people. Then you have a territory, which talks about ethnic group or about land. It could be also about language. It could be one language, it could be multiple language, or it could be dominant national language. Then you have nationality. Nationality, it's a belief in common ethnic ancestry that may be true, that may not be true. Because nationalism is something which sometimes grows organically, sometimes it's manufactured in some way to work as a pressure tactic. So all these things are a essential or integral part of nation state. So I hope that now, since we have understood diaspora, we have understood nation state, now we can move forward in a similar trajectory. Citizenship. So let's understand citizenship. Citizenship is the status of a person recognized under the law of a country as being a member of that country with associated rights and obligations. It's a very simple definition by United Nations. All of us are aware about it, that you have to get the legal recognition from the country. And when you go abroad, you go with your passport, right? So that gives you a citizenship identity. And then it's not about that you got passport and it's all about it. You also get associated rights, associated obligations attached to it. So a person can have multiple citizenship, or sometimes you don't even get citizenship. Then there are people, we see that they are stateless people because they are in a conflict zone, or their citizenship is in such a status that in legal terms they are stateless. So this is something which is of immense importance when we understand different diaspora citizenship practices. Then in more simpler terms, we can also say that it's a status that you are a member to a particular country with rights, privileges given by the country. So when we talk about citizenship, so it creates a set of boundary that if you have got citizenship for Britain, so it's like in British territory, you are a citizen. Then you go to other country, then you have another identity. So that is something which is in legality, you have to understand. Then why the citizenship has been established? There must be a purpose. So I think it's a way to manage the flow of people across borders. And that's why they keep track, okay, the person has come from that particular country. So if anything has to be done, or if any legal aspects has to be cleared, so we will have to be accountable to that country. And that's how we have seen that some crisis happens, so that particular country goes and try to rescue. We have seen India going to multiple places and rescuing its Indian nationals. So this is how they try to engage and assist the diaspora community. So it's quite clear then, it's a two-way relationship between individual and the state. So both have their obligations. It's not like the person gets citizenship and he or she is not bound to it. They have to perform certain obligations, duties, and they are bound to perform these. In a similar way, state has to be accountable also in taking care of the people who have got the citizenship. Now we'll move towards citizenship regime. So citizenship regime is can be defined in terms of set of rules, policies, and practices, which defines the parameters of citizenship within a particular country. That's why citizenship regime changes from various places to various places. So you cannot have same citizenship regime in all the countries. We see different sort of discourses, different sort of culture, different sort of institutional mechanisms which work. So this is something which we can start analyzing when we study citizenship, that why this country has a different sort of mechanism for citizenship and why other country has a different sort of mechanism. So they have a particular historical dimension. They have a very different sort of institutional mechanisms. So all these things, and they have different sort of pressure group. They have a different sort of diaspora group. Somewhere we see that diaspora community is very powerful. Somewhere we see that diaspora community is not that much powerful, because they might be in a very early age and not that much prosperous that they can they can emerge as a pressure group to ask or pressurize the government, even host or home government. So citizenship regime also encompasses legal frameworks, administrative procedures, social norms, and associated rights, obligation, and it also covers that how citizenship is acquired, maintained, and how you can relinquish the citizenship also. So citizenship regime covers each and every dimension relating to membership of a country. Then we also can understand that citizenship at the same time it's inclusionary also and it's exclusionary also. So it's like the moment some person gets citizenship, other person is not getting citizenship, because while you are making a rules and framework, you are trying to demarcate some boundary, some rules and regulations where particular set of people will come into the circle and they will become citizen. The rest of the persons will not be able to be part of the citizenship of the country. So it in that way that becomes exclusionary also for some people, and that's why we see that there are so many people who would be like applying for the citizenship, they might not be getting it. So that's how citizenship works. So it's like this is also a marker of identification. It is a marker of loyalty. It is also a marker of belongingness. So what does it mean by significance of citizenship? You have particular duties, you have particular obligations, you have particular allegiance, then you get protection, then you also get civil, political, and social rights, and they too from the state. So it's like a state obligation also. There, if you have citizenship of a country, then state is also going to assist you in many ways. And then we have to understand about naturalization policy, where how a state provides you citizenship. So it's a legal sort of mechanism when you legally integrate a person or officially you provide documents, and that's how naturalization policy works. So citizenship regime also helps in providing stability, because by giving citizenship, you ensure that social cohesion can be maintained, and how immigrant people can also be integrated to the host society. So these things help in citizenship regime. Now let's move forward towards citizenship and human rights discourse. So as we all are aware that human rights is a conception which applies to each and everyone, irrespective of nationality, irrespective of citizenship, right? We say that it's inalienable part. The moment you take birth, and sometimes discourses say even before you take birth, you get those human rights. So this is something which is very integral to the human essence, and the discourse which comes from it helps also in understanding that how one can use the human rights discourse to get the citizenship. So it's about diaspora citizenship, it's about immigrant citizenship. So that we are seeing that there are so many scholars who are working in this field, who are trying to say that the people or the immigrant community, diaspora community should get citizenship also, right? And this discourse is having a vast impact. We are seeing the global expansion of it, and it is saying that membership should be given to the foreigners also, and similar movements are taking place all across the globe. So there are so many terms about it. Some are saying that it's a post-national membership. Some are saying it denizenship. And so it could be, you can name it in multiple ways. But the essence is a person who is working in another country, he or she can get the membership of the community, that citizenship very easily or not. If they are getting it easily, then it is getting appreciated. If a regime is very harsh, it is becoming very difficult for them to get membership from the home country and host country. It's about dual nationality. Then it becomes like that you are restricting people from certain rights and privileges. So this is what has been a discourse. So one of the professors of sociology, Yasmin Nugohulu Soesal, she's one of the foremost experts on citizenship related dimensions, and she has been a vocal supporter of diaspora citizenship. So in her book, Limits of Citizenship, Migrants and Post-National Membership in Europe, she talks that idea of nation state as a primary framework for citizenship is problematic. So please understand it, that when we say that, because that's why I told you about how does it, like, what does it meant by nation state. So what she says, that idea of nation state is a primary framework, that okay, this is the nation state, like three, like population, government, territory, sovereignty, all these four are the integral part of nation state. So the idea of nation state as a primary framework for citizenship is problematic. Why? Because it assumes that there is a natural connection between citizenship and a shared national identity. That for getting citizenship, you have to be into the particular nationality only. So that nationality is attached with that citizenship. Now she is saying that, now she is arguing, and she has been vocal about it, that citizenship should be understood as a more flexible and dynamic concept, which can accommodate multiple forms of belonging and identity. Because since we are human beings, we have got immense potential in ourselves. We can serve at multiple places in multiple ways with immense amount of potential. So why are you restricting us into the particular? If we go to the particular place, that you say that no, you are loyal to that place only, you are not going to help the homeland or the other country. It's not like that. We are seeing that it's a globalized age where we have to be more human in terms of understanding that a person is going with all vulnerabilities, all challenges. Person is establishing himself or herself to the respective host place, and then trying to contribute in whatever ways to the homeland, hostland, and wherever he is providing or she's providing their services. So this is something has to be understood, that citizenship should not be understood as a very static and rigid concept. One has to go beyond that, and person should get citizenship with in a more flexible mode, more dynamic mode. So this is what about Soesal's argument, which you may use in your answers while you write your examination. And then let's go to Kim Berry's 2006 conception, where they talk about external citizenship, which is also known as extraterritorial citizenship. So Kim Berry has argued that migration is like migration decouples citizenship and residence, right? Both different aspects, disrupting traditional conceptions of nation states as bounded territorial entities with fixed population of citizens. Today, states are constituted increasingly by large numbers of resident non-citizens as well as non-resident external citizens. So, according to Gimberi, we have to understand that now in a globalized days, you cannot have fixed sort of idea. You have to go beyond that, because in each and every country we are seeing that resident people are also there, non-resident people are also there, and each and every one of them are contributing in their respective ways. So that conception of citizenship, and then in the name of citizenship you are like giving particular incentives to particular people, not excluding others. So this is not what you see. The scenario of COVID pandemic, we see that how in many countries during the pandemic, migrant community was not given benefits because it was said that you belong to other country, and then their mobility is restricted. You see the scenario where a person has been employed for 10 to 15 years, they are contributing in the respective host country, and now the host country says that we are not giving you any facilities. We are just taking care of our residents, our citizens, and that person cannot move due to pandemic related restrictions. So in that dimensions, I think there are multiple calamities which have made us realize that we need to evolve ourselves to understand that how multiple citizenship is quite significant, and it plays a very important role. So here Kimberly has given us two the conceptions of external citizenship. First is citizenship as status. So when we talk about a citizenship as a status, it's a very formal mechanism. You get legal status of citizen of a nation state, then you also get rights and privileges associated with it. You get right to vote, you get access to social service, you get protection from discrimination. And you all these things you get through sometimes through birthright, sometimes through naturalization or descent procedure. So all these are the status sort of mechanism. Then we also understand that how external citizenship works in terms of practices. So it's about practicality dimension, that everyday practices of experiences of citizenship. It may be associated with legal status, it might not be associated with legal status. So when you talk about practice, so you might be given the voting rights, you engage in a civic manner, then you have that power of community organization, then you can also engage in social activism. So it's all about practice, which constitute of informal practice of belonging and identification, where you can use languages, where you are engaged in your cultural customs, and then you also mobilize your social networks. So this is a practical dimension which talks about like citizenship in a very practical mode, which comes. So when we talk about status, so merely getting status doesn't serve the purpose, right? You have to also get all these rights and obligations, which doesn't restrict you from making cultural organizations, establishing social networks, working as a pressure group, and all these things are very, very essential part of citizenship, especially in practical aspects. Now let's move toward a few examples, and let's take example of Mexican diaspora in US. So I told you about brain drain. Same thing happened here. Mexicans went to US and they were considered like, oh, these are traitors. They utilized our resources and they went to other country and they are serving there. And now you see how transformation takes place. Now they are being considered as national heroes. Now they have become national asset. And how we see that, let's see in 1994 in California, Proposition 187 came, where the local people and the community people said that these migrant community, these Mexicans are coming to our country and taking all the benefits out of it. Don't give them any benefits. So there will be no public education, there will be no healthcare to all these people. But a huge movement took place, and then federal court had to decide that it's unconstitutional. If people are coming to the country, they will have to, they will get the respective rights. And then we moved towards, in 1994, NAFTA, a treaty which is known as North American Free Trade Agreement. This also helped in economic integration. You see, it's a treaty between Canada, Mexico, and US. So it helped in boosting Mexican economy when Mexico was finding it hard to boost its merge. Now they started to understand that why can't we engage our Mexican people in investing to our country, because they are now established in US and then they can contribute. So that idea emerged, and gradually we have seen it, that how it has helped a lot in boosting the Mexican economy. So this agreement, which was signed in 1994, now it, in 2020, it has been renamed, and with some more clauses integrated into it. It is now known as US-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA. So you might study also if you are interested in it. Then we are seeing it in 1986, Immigration Reform and Control Act, where US decided that we like sort of illegal migrants, like those who don't have citizenship, they have come to work in US, they will be given legalized citizenship. So for if they have like for 5 years they are there, so like since 1982, so in 1986 they got the citizenship of US. So that's how you see how it evolved, the journey evolved. And then we see that in 1996, Mexican Parliament approved constitutional amendment which allowed Mexicans to retain their Mexican nationality. It makes sense that now they have officially approved dual nationality, that apart from retaining Mexican nationality, you can also go and avail other facilities also. So it's like legal status has been given to them, and they will be at par with other citizens of the country. So this is a very remarkable. I told you that one time they were being said as traitors. Now they have become national heroes. So it's like, but even then, when we see such trajectory, we find that it evolved from time to time. So while in 1996 they were given this dual nationality, but they were not given voting rights, and they cannot hold any political office also. But then in 2005 we see another sort of evolution, that improvement in the citizenship regime, and in 2005 they have been allowed to vote also, and through absentee ballot they can, from their host country, they can also vote in the domestic sphere. So this is something. What does it mean? Why have we understood this case study? It tells us that how diaspora is contributing to the Mexican economy and society. It's a recognition of that. So it has provided diaspora community a greater sense of inclusion in political process. Now let's move towards Argentina. In a similar way, we see that after First World War, it was a like major flow of migrants from Spain and Italy were coming to Argentina, and then Argentina considered this thing that, okay, it's a very good way of building our nation, developing our nation. So they started the policy of automatic naturalization. So in beginning, they had a dual citizenship agreement with Italy and Spain, and they started to maintain link with immigrants and children in that way. And then in 2004, they passed the law 25871, where they amended their constitution, and they have given, or they have allowed Argentine citizens to hold citizenship in any other country, and they will not lose the Argentine citizenship. So in a similar way, it is also a sense of what does it reflect? It reflects that you are respecting the rights of your citizens, that they can have multiple citizenship, and then they can participate also in the global community. So it's a very good recognition that you are part of our country and you also serve the other community. So it's like we will also get name and fame because of that, because our people are going and doing good works, philanthropy, and all investments to the other places also. Then let's move towards ECOWAS. So in 1975, this organization was made for the economic cooperation to raise living standards, economic development, and all these things. So economic community of West African states. So a study was conducted, and in one study, it has been found that it's a study by Monir Siaple in 2014. So it says the countries which have the dual citizenship, which allowed dual citizenship, were getting more economic incentives. And you can see the last paragraph where it says that the countries which recognize dual citizenship managed to increase FDI by 63.9 million USD, gross capital formation by USD 578 million, and household consumption by USD 2.27 billion in comparison to other West African states. So this is how we are seeing that it's not about just that it's a discourse in a vacuum where you are saying, no, it's a dual citizenship is a very good concept and everyone should start emulating it. It's not about that. It's also about that you are getting economic incentives out of it. Now, it was all about the other countries. Now let's come to Indian diaspora and how, like, let's understand the trajectory that how Indian diaspora has been engaging with the India. So first of all, we see 1991, you all are aware about balance of payment crisis. At that time, India launched India Development Bond Scheme, and it helped us in raising $2 billion rupees. So it's like at that time, it helped India in reviving. And then it was like NRI bonds, forex deposits from NRI, and for 3 to 5 years at a very attractive rates. Then in a similar way, in 1998, when sanctions were imposed after the nuclear test, sanctions were imposed by US and many other Western countries. So at that time, again, we utilized resurgent India bonds, and these bonds helped in accumulating $4.8 billion through the NRI bonds. And then in 2000, we started Indian Millennium Deposit, where we raised $5.5 billion. So this is how we are seeing it. But then the issue is, then people started realizing that when India needs something, we are giving it. But what India is giving to us, then there are so many members of the global community, especially Indian community, Indian diaspora. So for example, I gave this one quote here, where Bhigu Parekh, PIO member and also member of UK House of Lords, he says that to matter to the mother country, only as a cow that can be milked matters to its owner. So it's like mother country seeing as a colony only as a source of economic profit or resource with little regard for the well-being or interest of colonized population. So in a similar way, then it's like you need any help, we are giving you, but you are not protecting our rights or you are not giving us anything in return. So and then mother never does this, right? So Gopio, one of the Gopio members said that if India is to play, it's a very constructive suggestion. If India is to play her role as a mother, she must protect her children wherever they are. So now we see how this is going forward in that direction. Now let's move towards understanding. Although officially India doesn't have any diaspora policy, but we have seen that through multiple channels that India has this approach of engaging with Indian diaspora through care, connect, contribute, celebrate. Care for diasporic community, safety, security, and everything, and then connect them with their homeland, and then asking them to contribute in India's development also, and then celebrating their cultural heritage as well as their achievements, accomplishments. And in that regard, I think in 1999, The PIO scheme was launched in 2002. It got implemented, where it says that a person of Indian origin, the definitional aspects. So in that PIO status, some benefits were given, that you can get visa-free travel to India. You need not do registration, and but there were some limitations that it should not exceed 180 days, and all these things were there. But then in 2006, OCI scheme, Overseas Citizenship of India scheme, was launched, where you get lifetime visa validity, and there is no 180 days of restriction. But then we see a more evolution form of that in 2015. Citizenship Amendment Act, you get the OCI card, and then you get the associated benefits out of it. So this is how India's policy is evolving. And then, as we have understood, that there are 4 C's: care, connect, contribute, celebrate. So India has been engaging with the diaspora in multiple capacities. We conduct Pravasi Bharati Divas. Recently, 17th Pravasi Bharati Divas was organized in Indore, Madhya Pradesh, and Guyana's and Suriname's president were also there, of Indian origin. And then in addition to that, I think Indian diaspora schemes are also there, like a No India program, where young students are invited to come and be part of India, understand how India is developing. So they are being given opportunity to visit villages, industries, to the cultural events, programs, historical places, scientific places, and this is how we are engaging with the diaspora. Then we have institutional measures also. There is a separate diaspora division in Ministry of External Affairs. There are 2 divisions exactly: Overseas Indian Affairs 1, Overseas Indian Affairs 2, who are dedicated to this thing. In 2001, we have seen this high-level committee on Indian diaspora, and then Pravasi Bharati Divas started in 2003. And there is a think tank, India Center for Migration, who works on this. Now it has been integrated with Indian Council of World Affairs, and now it is known as Center for Migration, Mobility and Diaspora Studies. So I think there are institutional mechanisms also. Then it comes about rights and welfare, and then there are more schemes. For example, Pravasi Tirth Darshan Yojana for Girmitia countries, elderly people, and they come and they visit our country. Then scholarship program for diaspora children, Indian Community Welfare Fund, Pravasi Bharati Bima Yojana. There are so many schemes. So it's like a conception: thin sovereignty and thick sovereignty. So in thin sovereignty, you say that okay, our work is just to protect our territory and our citizens from external threats, nothing else. But in thick sovereignty, you say that you have state has a very broader set of responsibilities. So you actively engage in economic, social, cultural life of your citizens also. So you try to give them more incentivization, you try to engage with them, and you provide them welfare programs, education, healthcare. So we see it in Mexico, Peru, Colombia, that these countries have this absentee ballot system, that where they can cast a vote from abroad also. So this is something which is a very good practice. Now it comes to the last slide. It's about challenges. So are there any challenges? There are so many challenges, numerous challenges. That's why so many countries, or even most of the countries, are not giving the dual citizenship, right? So there are legal barriers, like strict citizenship laws. Amending them is very difficult. Then there is political opposition, because there is a conception that increased migration can weaken the national identity. There is also a fear of diasporic intervention in domestic politics. Then there are administrative hurdles, that implementation can be very complex, time consuming. Then there are funding constraints, that once you give citizenship, then you have to see the consular protection limited, and the country has limited resources. Then how it is going to manage each and every aspect of it. Then diplomatic perception of citizenship extension is also sometimes terms as that it's a hostile encroachment on the host state's sovereignty also. And the last part is dual level loyalty. So because once you are giving dual citizenship, like there is a conception which says that now your loyalty will be divided between country of origin and host country. So you will not do the justice with your one country. So these are the basic challenges. And the last part is about a conception which we are seeing that there are so many people who are relinquishing Indian citizenship, and this data is quite visible, which says that in 2019, like 1,44,000 people approximately relinquished citizenship, and in 2021, 1,63,000 approximately relinquished Indian citizenship. So now it is upon you to ponder that what could be the reasons that Indians who are going as a diaspora community to the other countries, they are relinquishing their citizenship. So this is something I think that's all from my side. Thank you so much. If there is something which you would like to ask, I'm more than happy to be with you all.
I think this is a very interesting area. We all should ask whatever question you have. And question answer are very important actually to clarify any unit. If when you write assignment and all this is an opportunity to clarify your doubt. Okay, we have.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, Vijay, ask.
Regarding the human rights, it was said that the child was, before you could born, there is a right. But there are many countries which approve abortion, and there are many countries who don't. So it is not comes under human right violation.
Since I said that human rights is a discourse, right? And when we say that human rights, when I specifically told about that even before birth you get human rights. So in many countries, as you have already told, that sometimes abortion is legalized, sometimes abortion is not legalized. So in that way, but that human right is always there. It depends on the respective countries, people, and how do they consider it? Because sometimes we see that there are cultural elements involved in it. So in some countries approve such things, some countries don't approve such things, because we know that there is always a legal attachment or legal discourse which works in the country, and that entirely depends on the domestic pressures. And sometimes we see that domestic pressures become so mounting that government changes laws. So it entirely depends, because that's how the system works in our world, right? A country has an institutional mechanism. You have a parliament. It has a law, and then that law gets approved by the all the houses of your country, and that's why in some countries it gets approved, and in some countries it don't get approved. But human right as a concept is something which very inalienable. It cannot be taken away from anyone. That's why morally it's very unethically right to terminate a child also. But in many cases, when you see that it could be harmful to the mother, then that in many cases doctors approve.
Sorry, sir, there is a voice break, so I'm not able to hear what you said. There is a voice break, so I was not able to hear you.
Okay, so yes. Is it now audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So what I meant was that there are various regimes in human rights, right? And
Yes.
as per United Nations, or there are various international mechanisms available. So all of them give inalienable human rights to each and everyone. And it's beyond age, beyond gender, beyond races. There should be no discrimination in many ways. But when we see a child which has not taken birth, it's about that country's respective laws which works, because ultimately a conception is there, human rights, but ultimately it gets implemented by the respective parliament or the agencies, right? So those countries which are implementing the laws, it depends on them, the pressure groups, the common people, and the common sanction in those areas. That's why in some communities, this abortion law is being permitted and in some countries, this is culturally and politically, it is not permitted. So that entirely depends on the political and social groups who sometimes legitimize it and sometimes don't legitimize it. So it entirely depends on respective countries' regulations and laws.
So coming back to the same point, as we are talking about human rights, and you are saying it depends on countries' law. But if we keep that aside, every country has its own law. They follows their own, as you said. It's the truth also. At the same time, we are talking about human rights. In such cases, the country's laws should not affect on human birth and death cases.
That I agree.
Can't we work on that, sir? Can't we work on that?
Vijayaji,
Let sir answer me.
That I completely agree. And I think the issue in the practical dimension is about when, that's why we see, for example, in China's, when China committed the human rights violations, or if in any country these violations are conducted, then international community comes and raise concerns about it, and sometimes they have to back off. Okay, and sometimes they have to apologize also. But we know, when I talked about nation state, you are already aware that there is a conception which is known as sovereignty. And sovereignty is something which cannot be violated by anyone. Even if international law is there, international law cannot compel the country to violate its sovereignty. Then it becomes very difficult. So sometimes international or IMF try to impinge upon you. They can impose sanctions on you when you are violating their respective laws. For example, Pakistan, we are seeing that emergence of terrorism and so many violations. So Financial Action Task Force, like IMF, World Bank, is imposing so many restrictions on it. So that's how they comply to it. So in a similar ways, if international community considers that human rights violations are taking place and there is a global approval of it, so big organizations like United Nations, Amnesty International, and all these organizations come up and they try to say that you will have to be accountable. You cannot violate such rules. So that's how this mechanism works. But even then, conception of sovereignty is there. It cannot be violated very easily.
It's only on paper, I think.
yeah, good morning, Abhishek ji.
Good morning.
I think Vijaya and I are asking the question regarding stateless children. In the Kuwait, the male migration, female migration, they made some participate in a living relationship, something. After the child was born in somewhere, which nation will be recognized that child? Is it a Kuwait child? UNCRC Article 1 saying it's a recognition will come with a geography where the child was born. That's, I think. Okay, that is okay. But our question is, you speak about Pravasi Bharatiya Bima Yojana. The government of India initiated that earlier. It is applicable to ECR passport holders earlier. In 2017 August, they given relaxation to ECNR passport holders also. But who are migrating with the recruiting agency, they only getting these, I think. It's not applicable. We are demanding to Government of India MEA in PBD, Pravasi Bharatiya Divas Indore also. I pose a question to Minister of External Affairs, Muralidharan ji. Please give a relaxation to applicable to irrespective of cause of death. They will get the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas 10 lakh package of claim. That is. Many deaths are happening due to natural causes of deaths and suicides in Gulf countries. But the government of India not taking into consider their deaths. and they not compensate for them. This is the issue, sir.
Mhm. Sure, I think since you have already conveyed to the respective minister who has been handling
Regional
it,
passport holder also, sir, where we have to go and buy this PBBY policy. That's a big question to them, migrants.
True. So I think for like these all matters are usually covered by the Overseas Indian Affairs 1 division. So I think you might email the OIA 1 division with your like all sort of issues and challenges in a very
Yeah.
formalized manner, and
Yes, sir.
that
You
might
said
work.
community welfare fund, sir.
Mhm.
They are not using in emergency time. If someone died in Gulf countries, they're not coming to embassy community welfare officer to send that deceased body earlier to the hometown of the deceased. This is a big issue. I filed a public interest litigation in High Court Telangana. One Saudi migrant death at Saudi Arabia. The deceased family awaiting that 125 days for the deceased body. This is a big issue in our state, sir, Telangana.
True.
And in the emergency situations like COVID-19, and used this community welfare fund to lifting them to destinations to source countries. They made a Vande Bharat mission flights. They're not sufficient to migrant workers to coming back, return to chartered flights. They paid three much amount regular pay. They 3 times more than the actual ticket. They paid this much amount. It's a very big burden to the migrant workers. But the government not taking any initiative in improve the Vande Bharat mission flights.
True. I think in
Yeah.
17th PBD, Honorable Prime Minister of India has already conveyed to the ministry that I think there should be a very intense sort of like engagement with the diasporic community, and all rights and welfares associated with the diasporic community needs to be intensified, and whatever shortcomings are there needs to be covered upon. So I think MEA is already working on it, and since you are saying that there are so many challenges, so that is something where I think Indian government would like to keep working in the right direction, and hopefully I think in coming months or years.
Yeah, Tekji, I participated in this last PBD at Indore,
Yeah, great.
but there is no special session for labor.
Yeah, that I agree. There was no, like, there were 5 sessions.
In the PBD.
Mm.
There is no session special for labor migration. There is
Yes.
only class people how to invest their monies in India. Only it's like a investmenters conclave. It's
That
became
is,
like that.
so there was limitations that this I think this labor migration should be something which I think can be accommodated in the next PBD, and that's a very good suggestion, I think, because since our like large migration is to Gulf countries, and this is something I think government should work on it, and I hope that in the next PBD there would be a dedicated session which will cover opportunities, challenges, and all other dimensions associated with it. Thank you, Suresh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, then we will conclude now. Okay, so thank you, Abhishek, for this very important talk. Actually, citizenship and diaspora and all the related issues you discussed. And I think this kind of topic needs lots of debate. So which actually we could get some point of view from Swadesh and other people. So Vijay also asked questions. So thank you, everybody, and we'll meet again next Saturday.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all for being here.